This meeting of the Starkville Board of Alderman will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you have before you a copy of the modified written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Any proposed changes to the agenda as written?
I've got a few.
All right, Alderman Dumas.
Under board business, I'd like to place item A on consent.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 10A, the approval of the Visitors and Convention Council annual budget for the 2% funds in accordance with enabling legislation, House Bill 1833 and Board Resolution dated March 16, 2004, as presented on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, that's your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revision?
Under personnel, I'd like to place both those items on consent.
All right. The proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 11I1 and item 11I2 on the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. The authorization to hire LaTanya Henderson to fill the position of Deputy Clerk in the Finance City Clerk's office as presented, and the authorization to hire Lisa Harden to fill the vacant position of Purchasing Agent Accounting Clerk in the Finance City Clerk's Director of Finance / City Clerk's office as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those matters have been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, do you have further?
One more. Under board business, unless there's needed board action for the minutes, I'd like to place item B on consent as well.
All right. The only question is, can we do that before we have the public hearing? We have Ms. Benson.
No, the redistricting.
Oh, I've got you. Item B.
Right.
All right. Proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 10B, the approval of an ordinance adopting the reapportionment of the aldermanic districts of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, subject to Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, as amended. Title 42, United States Code, Section 1973C, as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection to placing that matter on the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none.
And then also both sets of the minutes on consent. I don't know of any corrections. City Attorney, have any?
So long as we use the copy at the table for September 18th of 2012.
Yes.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 4A and item 4B as presented on the table on the consent agenda. Those matters are as follows. The approval of the minutes from September 13th, 2012 recess meeting of the Board of Aldermen, and the approval of the minutes from September 18th, 2012 recess meeting of the Board of Aldermen as presented on the table. Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection? Any objection to placing those matters on consent?
I don't have an objection, but for clarification, is the matter pertaining to Green Oak subdivision, is it on the 13th or the 18th minutes?
It's on the 18th minute.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then one last on under public appearances. I'd yield to Ms. Gregory if she'd like to, and she's shaking her head. So I'd like to strike public appearance by the VCC on their budget as well.
All right, hold on. Let me finish making sure that matters on the consent agenda. Was there any objection to the two sets of minutes going on the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those two matters go on the consent agenda. The next proposed revision by Alderman Dumas is to strike Item 7A, public appearance by Jennifer Gregory, presenting the BCC 2% budget. Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection, any objection, any objection? Seeing none, that matter has been stricken. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
I do not.
All right, are there any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed, Alderman Sistrunk?
I'd like to remove from tonight's agenda board business item 10F. There's some information that became available late this afternoon that causes us to consider how this affects the TIF district that was developed in 2008. And I'd like for us to take a minute to be sure we have this ordered properly before we move forward.
Proposed revision from Alderman Sistrunk is to place item 10F, the consideration of rescinding and nullifying previous board action and approval of any and all authority and contracts provided to or with, but not limited to, the following entities for the Cotton Mill Project: Cotton Mill Development Group, Cotton Mill Conference Center and Hotel LLC, Cotton Mill Master Tenant LLC, Mark Nicholas, Mark Boutwell, David Moore, Nicholas Properties, Boutwell Properties, and Pritchard Engineering. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection, any objection, any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been stricken from the agenda. Alderman Sistrunk, do you have further proposed revisions?
I do not.
Are there any, Alderman Carver?
Mayor, again, for clarification of some of my constituents, I guess it'll be item F under board business. I'd like to add, if there's no objections, discussion concerning the ownership and maintenance of the emergency entrance gate at Douglas MacArthur and Stark Road. It's, it'll be now, I guess, item F, taking the place of the last one we struck. It's discussion concerning the ownership and maintenance of the emergency entrance gate at Douglas MacArthur and Stark Road.
Mr. Mayor, I'm a little confused on what he's asking.
I'm
He
asking,
wants to add a discussion item that would be item
Yeah.
10, actually, it would now be item 10F, because previously item 10F was stricken. It would be discussion concerning ownership and maintenance of the gate at Douglas MacArthur. Alderman Carver, is that your proposed revision?
yes, sir.
And Alderman Perkins, do you understand the proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection to revising the agenda?
Well, I'm just wondering why we're adding this tonight. We've been discussing this for 2 weeks.
Well, it's
That's
just some of my constituents. I get daily calls and some folks want to know the clarification of actually who owns the gate. And then since this is not a dead matter and we're going to be, I assume, over the next couple of board meetings addressing this is something I'd like clarified tonight.
Mr. Mayor, we can listen to it for a few minutes.
Thank
All
you.
right, is there any objection? Any objection to the revision of the agenda? Any objection, any objection, any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the agenda as item 10F. Are there any further proposed revisions to the agenda as written? Any further proposed revisions to the agenda? Any further proposed revisions? All right, seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order. Motion has been made by Alderman Parker to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You now have before you the approval of the consent agenda as revised. Is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised is approved. The minutes have been placed on the consent agenda, so that will take us to comments by the mayor and board. I have 3 new employee introductions that I have the pleasure of making this evening. The first is I'd like to recognize William Thrasher. And it is my pleasure to welcome Police Officer William Thrasher to the Starkville Police Department. William is originally from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He attended East Mississippi Community College, where he studied to become an electrical technician. William previously worked for the Columbus Police Department in the Drug Interdiction Unit and the Warrant Apprehension Unit. William and his wife, Michelle, are proud parents of 3 children, Joseph, Austin, and Shanna. In his spare time, William enjoys four-wheeling, fishing, and doing carpentry work. Please join me in welcoming William. I'd now like to recognize Daniel Gilliland. Please join me in welcoming our newest firefighter, Daniel Gilliland, to the Starkville Fire Department. Daniel is originally from Mathiston and is a graduate of East Webster High School. He attended East Mississippi Community College as well as Holmes Community College. Daniel previously worked for the Grenada Fire Department as a firefighter. Daniel is married to Katie Gilliland, and they have one dog named Chunk. Daniel's parents are Lee and Lisa Gilliland, and he has one brother, Robbie, who is an apprentice lineman with the Starkville Electric Department. Daniel and his family attend First Baptist Church in Mabin. When Daniel isn't busy at work, he enjoys hunting and fishing. Please join me in welcoming Daniel. And I'd now like to recognize Terry Williams. Terry is our newest laborer in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. He is originally from Starkville and is a graduate of East Oktibbeha County High School. Before joining the city of Starkville, Terry worked for the Veranda Restaurant. He is the son of Ricky and Wilma Spencer, and he has a brother, Ricky Jr., and a sister, Shell. Terry and his family attend Austin Church. When time permits, Terry enjoys playing basketball. Please join me in welcoming Terry Williams to the city of Starkville. All right, and I have one more announcement prior to opening the floor for announcements for the members of the board. At our previous meeting, I attempted to explain the procedure for overriding a veto and how abstentions are counted towards the override of a veto. What I explained was what I believed to be the case, and what in fact was the longstanding interpretation of the Attorney General's office in regards to whether abstentions were counted towards an override. It had always been my understanding that they were not counted towards an override. Well, the day after I said that, I was presented with a newer Attorney General's opinion that I had seen previously that seemed to contradict that explanation. So I asked the city attorney to research the matter and to advise whether, in fact, abstentions did count towards the override of a veto. He has done so and has provided an answer, and I think it would be helpful to have him explain how that process works.
Sure, this is one of those cases where the law just simply changed. A recent Attorney General's opinion says that abstentions do now count toward the majority vote in a 2-to-3 override of the mayor's veto. So just to see how that would play out, if the same vote from the previous meeting on September 18th were to hold with 3 in favor, 2 against, and 2 abstentions, those 2 abstentions would count toward the 3 that were in the majority to come up with the 5 votes necessary under the 2/3 ratio to override the mayor's veto. So in sum, abstentions count toward the majority yay vote in an override of the mayor's veto.
All right, that concludes my comments for this evening. Do we have any comments from the members of the board? Do we have any comments from the members of the board? We have, oh, I'm sorry, we have our Employee of the Month, Alderman Carver.
Yes, sir, thank you. It is my great pleasure, and the board's also, to recognize Stephanie Halbert as the Employee of the Month for October 2012. Stephanie has been with the City of Starkville since April 2010. She is the Deputy Clerk in the Finance and Administration Office, and one of her primary duties is payroll for the city. Stephanie is a very dedicated and dependable employee. She always conducts herself in a professional manner and meets every challenge with a smile. Stephanie displays excellence in her quality of work, leadership in her department activities, and her customer service skills. Her willingness to go that extra mile has proven invaluable. One area that Stephanie's proven leadership ability is in the conversion of our payroll activities to the new Tyler technology software. Even though Stephanie came into the payroll function after the conversion was well underway, she quickly learned the key elements and has helped others become proficient in use of the software. She has helped ensure that the payroll has been processed with minimal issues through this conversion. Even though full implementation of the software is still a work in process, We would not be where we are today without Stephanie's efforts in the implementation of the system. Stephanie takes her responsibilities very seriously. I like this. Even while preparing for a recent wedding, Stephanie realized payroll was due and the department was shorthanded at the time. Without being asked, Stephanie volunteered to come in at 6:30 in the morning to process payroll. She made sure that all employees received timely and accurate checks, made her wedding plans, and handled it all with a calm and proficient manner. That is true multitasking. Stephanie is a valued asset to the finance and administration office in the city of Starkville, and she should be commended for the extra effort she gives each and every day. The city of Starkville and the Board of Alderman and the mayor are proud to recognize Stephanie Halbert as Employee of the Month for October 2012.
And no motion. Yes.
All right, at this time, Alderman Court.
Yeah, I wanted to make a statement real quick. I just wanted to extend a word of congratulations to the representatives from the city, the university, and the county that worked together to get the transportation grant that an official press release was made about today. This grant's going to fund a shuttle system that will connect the city and the university. It'll provide an alternative form of transportation. It'll be very helpful to some of our residents as well as our students, and in particular some of our international students who don't even have a car. So I'm really excited about this. The three groups seem very committed to making this a reality and doing it the right way. So.
At this time, do we have any, Alderman Dumas?
I've got, well, a couple. So I want to be clear that for anyone, I had a question about this earlier. Anyone who did not get a modified agenda from the table tonight, there was, item C is now stricken. So the conversation about Redbud is in fact off the table. But I also want to make just a quick comment that I hope we, the city, can take this as a learning experience, both from the board table, both from citizens, both from staff. Because I think when you look at Green Oaks and you look at the issues that we've seen there the last couple of years, when you look at Maple, when you look at the flooding that happens on Maple, when you look at the traffic issues and the quality of life impacts, and take the emotion out of it, of whether or not you agree or not with the gate coming down or the roads being opened. But I see this from a planning side as an issue of what not to do from a planning and design standpoint. Green Oaks, somebody knows this much more than I do, but Green Oaks was built on a small 2-lane road, which was Highway 12. Stark Road was a gravel road at the time. And so, but I think what we're seeing is the culmination of issues here associated with growth, with development, and how imperative it is for us as a city to be cognizant of proper design and planning techniques, because there's no doubt that in the 90s, with the things and the high density and the issues associated with Stark Road developing the way that it was growing, and the growth and development of Highway 12, that there were impacts to this community. And there's no doubt from what we heard 2 weeks ago and what we hear tonight, I'm sure that there is a extremely high quality of life in this neighborhood that should be protected. And that's not saying one way or the other on whether or not the gate should come down or not. Again, out of that realm. But we see the same issue on South Montgomery, where communities and neighborhoods have been allowed to insulate themselves and not understanding the impact of what when we don't look at collective planning and the idea of connectivity and how important that is from a community and the impact that it has not only from our neighbor, but the impact it has on ourselves. And we have a fantastic city staff from a planning perspective that is oftentimes the whipping post, because they do in fact now require that things are built to standards that don't build the types of roads that become racetracks for people cutting through from a land use that should not have been built in the first place. And so I think it's important that we respect that. I think it's important that we continue to protect that. I think it's important that we as a community understand the value of planning and design, because when you look at not only the road issue, but when you look at the simple stormwater issue of unregulated stormwater flow off of Kroger and what it does to true quality of life for an individual who can't even live in our home on Maple Drive, and now we have those processes in place. And so, we've had ample discussion at this board table about the need for regulation and the need for how we as a community look and frame and encourage growth. And we oftentimes are chastised for it, because we do want to, in fact, take a longer look at what the impacts of these developments are, not only to our property, which we want you to grow and develop, but most importantly, and equally important, is what is the impact to your neighbor? Because Carver Ditch is one that we've heard multiple times. Everything north of Main Street, 182, flows to Carver Ditch as a collective impact to just a handful of citizens. And that was done so and is there because it was unregulated for a long amount of time. And so we to this day are trying to increase and put in place the framework so that we can guarantee that these issues never come back. Because if a properly designed and planned community was built, you never would have had to close the road. The quality of life would have been high, and it would have been connected to your neighbors, and everything would have worked the way that it was intended to work 40 years ago. But yet we're still trying to overcome those. And so I really am encouraged by what we're doing as a city and what we're doing in looking at the long-term perspective of what planning is. And I just encourage us to continue to do that. Most importantly from us as a board, but as a community to get behind that and understand that, sure, there's a national rhetoric out there of the lack of regulation and too much governmental control, but when you look at it from a true local perspective, it's not about large national issues. It's about controlling and helping what happens between your neighbor and the impact it has on your individual piece of property, which is at the nexus of your quality of life. And this is a prime example of it, and I hope we can take all these points that we're hearing from 2 weeks ago to what we're here tonight, and we'll continue to embrace that idea. I yield the floor.
Do we have any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? All right, seeing none, we will move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments this evening may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Greeting to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. Want to recognize our Vice Mayor Sid Trump and Alderman Vaughn.
Yeah, good evening.
And myself, I would like for you all to pray for the Turner family. My father's oldest sister passed this week, Pearl Turner Harris, and we asked you to pray for us to get through that. She was 90 years old. Citizen concern. The citizens feel like that you're trying to outlast. Sad part about it, the citizens outlast you. The citizens are continuing being fired up at things that have been looked over or did the way that you want done. At several meetings, we still are want to hear the health department about Carver Drive. That we still want to hear about the budget chair. We still want to hear about people that have mental illness. Doing it your way will not last. Trying to outlast the people will not work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further citizen comments?
I'm Alan Burnham from Ward 2. Sandra, I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to talk to you about this, but within the past 2 weeks, the city has been working on storm drainage in Long Meadow subdivision. And I happened to go down Ash Street a good bit onto Sycamore. Sunday, I noticed with the heavy downpour and with the new storm drain in the grate, that much of the water that ran down Ash Street bypassed the storm drain, that it went around it. So obviously, there is some sort of an impediment, a blockage or such as to how that grate was put in, because the water goes around the storm drain and then floods Sycamore. So I just thought you need to be aware of that.
Thank you, Mr.
And I
Byrne.
think Edward is duly noting that in the back.
Corey Bagwell, Ward 1. Board, Mayor, y'all were elected here to do a job, not to govern, but to represent, to do a job for us, not for you. With the gate being proposed and taken down, initially, it was not up. And that road was gravel, and through illegal access, that road became rutted, potholes were formed, to the point of Chief of Fire Department then, Junior Grantham, said he was not gonna take those fire trucks down that road. That's when we installed the gate. From then, the gate has been working perfectly fine, even today. So please reconsider, because if you do take that gate down, you've got a lot of folks upset, even to the point of being mad. Reconsider, because Alderman Perkins well knows about the hospital road being opened up to the bypass. That's been in the plans for a long time. I'm sure his constituents would not like that at all. And Alderwoman Sistrum, I'm sure her constituents on the backside of Meadowview would not like the backside being opened up to McKee Park. So please, reconsider all this, because we've got a good thing going over there. Alderman Carver is doing a fabulous job. Take care of y'all's wards. Ben's gonna take care of ours. As you see, we are upset with all this. That's a hot corner. We've got the theater, we've got the condos going on. The traffic would not be anywhere near where it was when we first blocked this road off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagwell. Further citizen comments?
Good evening. My name is Chevelle Rice. Male, Board of Alderman. My name is Chevelle Rice. I am the youth advisor for the NAACP Youth Council. October the 28th, we will be having a meet and greet at the Sportsplex. And our theme is Prep Our Youth for Success. And I would like for the mayor and the Board of Aldermen to be there, if you all could, make an appearance. And that's one of our objectives on our program, is to teach our children about the laws, the local, state, and national. And we have also invited other councils from other counties to be there. So if you all could reply the 22nd to let us know if you all could be there.
Thank you.
What was the date?
What time is that?
It's at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
And what was the date again?
October 28th.
October 28th. And
Yes,
what
sir.
ward do you live in, miss? Your ward, which ward do you live in?
I'm in District 4,
Oh, thank you.
with Daniel Jackson.
Thank you, Ms. Rice.
Thank you.
My name is Galen Forsyth. I live at 2713 Redbud Drive in Ward 1. My father-in-law has withdrawn the release and waiver of claim to reopen Redbud Drive. And I just wanted to state on a personal note that none of the gates should be open. It's not safe. The amount of traffic has increased substantially since more students have been coming in throughout Stark Road. And me and my wife, being students, we do cut through neighborhoods sometimes. And that's exactly what's going to occur if these gates are opened up. The emergency gate on Douglas MacArthur does operate and function properly, 100%. We have proof that it does. So I just would like you to take our considerations. Thank you for your time.
Oh, could you state your first name for the record?
Galen Forsyth, G-A-L-E-N.
Thank you, Mr. Forsythe.
My name is Charles Johnson, 152 Northside Drive. And we still have a problem out of that water running down the hill in my yard, so I got some pictures I want y'all to look at. And that ditch behind the house, I don't know what to say about it. It needs to be coupled up or something, cause it's, the way it look now, it just look bad. So, y'all,
No, I won't go.
I tell you what, place them with do you want us to keep them?
I don't want that.
Okay.
Start here.
Yeah, start them down there and we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Do we have further citizen comments this evening?
Yeah, we'll pass back to you. We're gonna pass it down.
Hold on, one at a time.
I'm sorry. I'll be quick. I'm Heather Wainwright. I'm in Ward 1 on 2402 Pinup. Again, speaking to the issue of the gate on Douglas MacArthur and the roads in that neighborhood. And I appreciate what Alderman Dumas said about planning and neighborhoods and thinking about the city as a whole and how we the neighborhoods need to function in that regard. However, I just moved into the neighborhood this summer. I purposely bought where I did because the roads were blocked off and I have a special needs child that is not aware of circumstances and danger, and so the limited traffic was a big factor in finding a place to live in this town. It was important to me to be able to find a place where I didn't have to worry about as much traffic and that was affordable, and Green Oaks fit the bill for me. So when I'm thinking about planning, if the gate is what the issue is, or opening of access, then I hope that we can take some measures if we are gonna consider planning that will compensate for the fact that the traffic will increase going through the neighborhood. I think that's an undeniable fact because it's easy and people like to do what's easy. So I'm again joining my neighbors, asking you to reconsider your decision, perhaps table it for further discussion so that we can plan perhaps better than just remove the gate and then see what happens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wainwright.
Good evening, how you doing? I'm Peter Neely, my wife, Kathy Barnes Neely. And I sit down and talk to my wife, and I look at it and say that this place hasn't been open since 1999, at the bottom of page 16. When I look at my daughter going outside and playing down the neighborhood with friends and stuff, that I don't have to call her in when traffic comes through and say, y'all get out the road. Because a lot of people, I looked at that a long time ago, when I was driving down the road, I said, let me cut across it right here and go through the neighborhood. If y'all reopen that back up, they're gonna be doing the same thing, cutting through. And a lot of kids be out there playing in the road. They got basketball. They be playing ball in the road. And no, we got a real safe neighborhood. I stay on 2601 Persimmon Drive. And we ain't had to call no police on the neighborhood or nothing around the neighborhood. It been safe and secure and carefully. And I want y'all please to look at that. A lot of people call me at the shop, say, I know you stay on Persimmon, I know you stay in Green Oak, please tell them open that up. I said, no, I don't want to vote for that opening up because it's going to hurt our church. You know, you got people walking across the highway, you don't know who they is in your neighborhood. And I don't want to be able to keep calling the police at night, say somebody outside my house and somebody trying to break in. Anyone can do that. But we want to keep our neighborhood safe. I look at that paper right here. It said over 400 homes and families over there. And I think everybody don't want the gates open up. I think they don't want to open up. And I speak on behalf of my wife. She said she don't want to open it up because we got little children. We try to raise our kid the right way. Have y'all been getting a lot of police calls over there? That's just all that case.
Thank you, Mr. Neely.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Board of Alderman, my name is Glenn Gray. I live at 2708 Plum Road in Green Oaks, and I moved in there 5 years ago. I suppose that's Ward 1, okay? The reason I moved into Green Oaks back then was that the realtor assured me that the crime rate was lower there because there was limited access to Green Oaks. So that if there were any burglary or anything like that in there, then there's only a few places that a person can exit that subdivision. Okay? Number two, MacArthur Drive is practically like a main street, if you will, of Green Oaks. It goes straight from Stark Road, where you would have to build an extension of at least about 100 feet to add on to MacArthur Road into Stark Road. So that's going to cost the city a significant amount of money to do that, number one. Number two, MacArthur Drive goes straight down, and it's just practically a straight arrow where it runs into Nathan Hale. There are children that live on that road. You just talked about having a special needs child. It makes no sense to open up that gate. The gate works. In fact, only about, I think it was only about 2 years ago, they put in a new gate. I live only about 2 blocks from there, and I've frequently walked down to MacArthur Road and then over onto Stark to get to some businesses over on that side of the town. Please reconsider any kind of plan to open up that gate, because I believe it would be, number one, it would result in an increase in potential crime rate in Green Oaks. Number two, I think it would be a safety hazard for children that live anywhere near MacArthur Road. And number three, I think it would affect property values, and I'm a property owner. Thank you very much for my comments.
Thank you. Further citizen comment?
Hello, I'm Lewis Jordan. I'm a Green Oaks resident. I'll be talking in a few minutes more on some of these issues that have been raised. But I wanted to comment on Alderman Dumas's discussion. City planning. What y'all are doing now will affect residents of Starkville in the future. When Green Oaks was developed, there was no concept or idea of 30 years from now, how will this community be interacting with and around other areas within the city. The infrastructure currently within Green Oaks is not there to provide safe and reliable means of transportation throughout the neighborhood, and also to provide for the safety of recreationalists and children. And I'm certain some point in the future, maybe when we're all dead and gone and under the ground, somebody will be sitting on that board talking about the city planners of Starkville in 2020, 2010. What could they have done differently? How could they have improved the flow of traffic and people throughout Starkville? And trying to correct something by forcing an issue that really hasn't been stated is a public need will affect other people and will affect the citizens of Green Oaks. So thank you very much, and I will elaborate further.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments?
I'm Pam Wasson. I live at 2401A Douglas MacArthur, and I would like for the ones that want to remove the gate to reconsider, because people will cut through, students are going to cut through trying to get to class fast, and just like someone said earlier, MacArthur is a main street that goes straight through it, so I would really appreciate it those that voted to remove it would reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Further citizen comment?
My name is Doug Houston, live in Green Oaks in Ward 1. Just wanted to mention a couple other things. I'm also against removing the this gate, and it seems to me that this whole issue seems to be an issue of facts versus, as was stated in the last meeting, as aldermen we have the authority to take this action. And I think as alderman, your position is not, we have the authority so we can do this. It is what is in the best interest of the residents of Starkville, the health of their families, and the overall good of Starkville. Many facts have been presented against removing this barrier. The only fact I think I heard in the last meeting for removing the barrier was that a city street should never be blocked. I think that's the only statement that was made that was for removing the barrier. There really have been no facts presented by the alderman as a reason for removing this barrier. Many facts were presented by Dr. Jordan last week about we have emergency access, and so if it's about that, we have that already. So that right there seems to be enough. Douglas and MacArthur, as many have mentioned, is a straight shot. Many times I drove that the last 2 weeks, and I thought what Alderman Sistrunk said about Longmeadow, but Longmeadow is a meandering way to get somewhere. Douglas MacArthur becomes another Highway 12 almost. So it's a lot different situation. And I would just like to ask aldermen that abstained, please make your position clear as what you think about this rather than abstaining, because if it's going to go as a 4 anyway, we would just like you to go ahead and make a vote instead of just letting an abstention make your vote for you. We'd like to know what you stand for on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further citizen comments?
Mayor, Alderman, I'm David Fry. I live at 104 Mangrove Pond. I was involved in '99 when we closed the road. We had 3 aldermen that served Green Oaks at that time. Fortunately, we're down to 1 now, so we can talk to 1 person. We had to go through the petition process. We had to reestablish the Green Oaks Homeowners Association. It was a long, drawn-out process. I'm having trouble understanding how you can just vote on something. Was there a petition? How many people signed said petition? Because I didn't see one. I asked my neighbors. They didn't see one. I know one of my neighbors, in fact, the individual I bought my house from, came around because he moved up the street. His wife wanted the gate open several years ago. I told him I wouldn't sign his petition. Yeah, I'm upset about it. Some of you probably read the letter that I put in the paper, and I did send it to all the aldermen. I think it's dangerous. The next morning when I went to work, the bus was late for the school kids. They were sitting on the curb in Plum, down there by Douglas MacArthur at the East End. Can you imagine students running through that road early in the morning? Sometimes it's difficult. They'll pass you to get to the next stop sign in some of the other roads. I don't want to see that happen to Douglas MacArthur. It's too straight, and it's going to be a straight shot, and they'll take the shortcut. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Please reconsider your vote. For those of you who abstained, reconsider. Please vote, like the gentleman said before. Don't abstain. Let us know where you stand, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jewel Butler, and I live on Cottonwood Drive. It's a 4-way stop, and people speed by there all the time. Half the time they ignore the stop sign. We lived there since 1972, and we've seen things open and things close. And I just feel that the wrong thing would be happening if you open Douglas MacArthur. Like he said, it will be just like having another, I think, Highway 12, because people will be cutting through there all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, I apologize. Oh, my number.
Yeah, but since we've got a bunch of them and you're on for a public appearance, I'd just ask you, let everybody else finish up.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Tim Hamilton, and I live on 2713 Persimmon Drive. And I'd like to, again, with all these other Green Oaks residents in here, I would agree with them. We don't need any of the roads open. When we did the process to get them open, we were all
just about the entire neighborhood was involved with that. Most of the time when I come home from work, I'm coming from the west, and yes, it would be a lot easier if Redbud was open for me to get there. It's an extra several miles and several minutes if there's traffic for me to get home. But I would rather go to that small inconvenience of driving further, going around off 12 or Avenue of Patriots to get to my house than I would to open the door for hundreds and possibly even thousands of cars to come through there each day. Before they were closed, that's exactly what was coming through there. Hundreds and thousands on some days coming through a small neighborhood. Yet there's 400 residents there, but it's still a small neighborhood compared to some. And I'd just like for you to reconsider your proposal to take the gate down or reopen any of the other roads there. And I'd also agree with Mr. Houston about if you abstain from the vote, please make your vote clear what you want. You were hired to make votes, not to sit back and abstain from the votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Further citizen comments? All right, if there's no one else wishing to make a comment, then Mr. Jordan, you can round it out for us.
Sorry, I forgot to ask. So y'all are really moving through the agenda. Were the September 18th minutes approved or not?
They were indeed.
So they were approved. So the next time the issue of the gate will be brought up, or the soonest would be October 16th.
Yeah,
correct?
that opens a 10-day window
For you to veto
for me to
what you
veto
said.
it. I will be vetoing this matter, so I would anticipate a potential vote to override would go on the agenda as early as October 16th. The board also has in its power, if two board members so wish, to have a special call meeting.
So in that time, how are citizens notified that there is a 3-hour window for a special board meeting?
That's correct.
Is that posted on the City of Starkville website?
Do you want to go over the law for notice on a special call?
The law on notice of a special call meeting is that once the board determines there's a special call, they must post notice of that special call meeting within an hour after they make that determination.
And on the website, on the front door of City Hall, or?
I'll tell you what, if this would make you feel better, Mr. Jordan, in the event that there is a special call, I will call you and let you know that a meeting has been called.
And these citizens then should possibly be here on October 16th.
Yeah, October 16th would be when it would come up in the regular course of board business.
Great. Sorry, once again.
All right, that will conclude our citizen comments for this evening. And carry us to public appearances. We have 2 public appearances scheduled this evening. The first is by Dr. Charles Scarborough, the president of the Green Oaks Homeowners Association, to discuss the matter of reopening streets in Green Oaks. Dr. Scarborough?
And Dr. Scarborough, don't take this as a lack of interest, but I'm old and I need a quick break, so I'll catch the last part.
I live at 2305 MacArthur Drive, president of the Green Oaks Homeowners Association, and I've lived in Green Oaks since 1966. Green Oaks suits me fine. I've looked at all the other subdivisions, and I love Green Oaks the best. So, you might think that back in 1999, Green Oaks was bestowed a great favor that set us apart, that made us unique amongst all the subdivisions in Starkville by getting those roads closed. But that's not the case. May I approach the bench?
Do you have documents that you want to circulate?
Yes.
Yes, and will you be leaving those with the city?
Yes.
Then I ask that you present them to the clerk, and he can circulate them to the board.
You probably need to look. There's one for each person, but I gotta say.
He'll see to it that they get them. Yep.
One less than what I need. So the first thing, let me see, you have to use this guy, yeah. So I looked at the city map.
Sorry, I keep using this.
No, that's not what I want. Let me close it. You don't have a... I'm not used to this thing. How do I gotta go down the menu. I wanna go down the menu. This is not what I clicked on, I don't think. I'll go over here. Well, let me just see. Okay, let me close
Mr.
it
Mayor,
then.
can we take a recess until he can get his?
Yeah, take a recess till I get it fixed.
All right, without objection, we're going to move into a brief recess. Any objection? Any objection?
me,
Seeing none, we'll stand in recess. I'll ask that you don't go far so we can pick this up quickly.
Oh, you gotta do it over here, huh?
Why don't you get him to open up all the documents?
I was gonna say, just open them all.
Yeah. And then you
Okay, what I've done is I've made a list of some Starkville subdivisions with no through streets. Presley Place, Parkdale, Northgate, Rolling Hills, Templeton Meadows, Montgomery Ridge, Northwood Hills, Plantation Homes, Fairfield. That's north of Highway 82. Now, south of Highway 82, it's Fairfield, Stonegate, Timber Cove, Colonial Hill, Greenbrier, Huntington Place, Country Club Estates, West End, that's Tally Ho, where Tally Ho Drive is, Foxwood off of Greensboro, and South Park Estates. And then I made found a couple subdivisions with through streets, and they are Green Oaks. No, they are Long Meadow and Pleasant Acres, and Green Oaks should be above that line. On the piece of paper I gave you, Green Oaks is above the line with no through streets, okay? But my file got a little corrupted for some reason, I don't know why. Okay, so there's nothing unique about Green Oaks having no through streets. Now, am I trying to pull the wool over your eyes? No. Let's look at the city map. And now, let me see if I can do this. Not being familiar with this guy. You're gonna have to come here. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm getting there. Is it City of Starkville? Then I hit enter. Now blow it up.
Hey, you got it.
Can you blow it up? Well, this is slow because I'm not used to the device. I don't use this. What's it called? A touchpad?
That's right.
I don't use a
You
touchpad.
have to use these bars over here to navigate to where you want to go.
Yeah, I can. Okay. Well, I might not get through all of them, but just to show you, this is impossibly slow because I'm not used to it. Well, I mean, this is like molasses in wintertime. I mean, I'll never get through at this rate. Okay. Well, maybe we can just... Okay, I can do it like this. Okay. Let's look at a Presley Place. That's comes off of Montgomery, north of Highway 82. Do you see Presley Place there? There's no through streets there. Now, Presley Place, they're all private streets, but there's no through streets. But we can go on to some place called Parkdale. Now let me see where Parkdale is. Bottom left. There's Parkdale, bottom left. No through streets. No through streets. Then we go to Northgate. Help me locate Northgate. Here. Where's Northgate? Here we are. There's Northgate. You see it? Kind of in the middle. No through streets. Then we go to Rolling Hills, which is a nice big subdivision. There it is right there. You see it? No through streets. Is it, you know? I'm not going to go through every one of them. I just brought this in so you would see that I wasn't trying to pull the wool over your head, okay, over your eyes. Now, if you go south of Highway 82, I'm getting a little better at this, you can go to, say, Fairfield, which is just south of
Go down.
Sherwood.
Go down.
You see it down there in the middle? There's no through streets. And then we have Stonegate right across from Fairfield, little subdivision there. No through streets. Then we go to Timber Cove, a little to the left, a little to the west. Montgomery, you see it there? No through streets. Then we go to Colonial Hills.
1 minute remaining. You have 1 minute remaining.
Well, I'm not going to finish. We can go to Colonial Hills. There's no through streets. We can go then to Greenbrier. See it down over there? To the little to the east? No through streets, etc., etc., etc. There's nothing unique about Green Oaks having no through streets. You're not bestowing some knighthood on us by giving us no through streets, because everybody else has it too. Now I have another picture. I'd like you to see Green Oaks. I want you to look at Green Oaks.
You're under half a minute, Dr. Scarborough.
Okay, I got it. There's Green Oaks. I want you to look at Green Oaks. Do you see Highway 12 going down there? To go around Green Oaks, not only is there a huge increase in the distance, you've got to go through several red lights. It's a no-brainer to go through Green Oaks. And if you compare this to Long Meadow, you got to make a whole bunch of twists and turns.
Dr. Scarborough, your time's expired.
Okay, so comparing Long Meadow to Green Oaks is not a balanced viewpoint. There's
Thank you,
no
Dr.
comparison at
Scarborough.
all. Okay, thank you very much. I made my point. Now I got to get my disc back.
Dr. Scott, here you go. Next public appearance is by Dr. Lewis Jordan. Again, on the removal of the emergency gate.
Thank you.
Today is Friday, September 21st, 2012. There's the Starkville Daily News cover. We're on the corner of Plum and Douglas MacArthur. We are walking down the street, approaching the gate. You can see the residential houses at the intersection of MacArthur and Stark Road. There is the emergency access gate along with the vehicle. We are going to show that this gate actually functions when he hits the alarm. There's the alarm. There's the gate opening. Again, September 21st, 2012, the safety access gate at Stark Road is fully functional. Okay, so the gate has opened. In case there are sensors, we are going to wait until the gate closes to make sure that it does. At some point it was thought that there were underground metal sensors that would detect us, and there goes the gate is closing. This gate is fully functional and allows emergency access to the Green Oaks community. And this is in direct contradiction to claims made by certain individuals. Thank you.
I now have some, what I maybe want to call live action photos. The gate actually opened twice for us, or for the officer. And there's the gate opening. And there's him driving through. There's the serial number in case anybody wants to verify. Also have that on video. So, I would call that a fact, perhaps proof or evidence. I'm not sure. So, in 1999, the roads were closed. Douglas MacArthur was left open for emergency access personnel. Cut-through traffic became so severe, the gate was installed. According to your own police chief, Lindley, the gate is 100% effective in enforcing the law. The law is which no one outside of emergency personnel can utilize that entrance. So it got to the point where it was being violated. The gate was found as a safe and effective alternative which enforces the law 100% of the time. And this gate offers several advantages to the citizens of Starkville. Enforcement of a Starkville law, ensuring only emergency access personnel utilize the gate. An increase in safety to the residents, children, recreationalists, and a cost-saving expense for the tax-paying citizens of Starkville. That gate was a one-time fixed cost. If that gate is removed, law enforcement time, man-hours, city vehicle usage will be required to monitor and enforce that law, which would be a recurring expenditure into perpetuity. I'm sure the city itself has vehicles, roads. If they are broken, they are repaired. It is more effective sometimes to rotate the tires than to trade the car in and go buy a new one. So it brings up a question of, one, mayor, who owns the gate? Oh, can I ask questions?
It's actually on our agenda. Let's just get to that.
Sure. All right. So we'll get to that. And, I do have a couple more pictures here. This is an emergency access gate located at the back of the fire station on Airport Road. There's an airplane and what is two extremely large flammable tanks. Does this gate function properly? Who is responsible for its maintenance? I believe FAA ratings require that on-site emergency facilities be available for certain size to allow access for certain size airplanes. Do these gates work? There's the second gate. Again, does this gate function? Who is responsible for this? Emergency access personnel should be able to utilize this gate. The third gate, an electronic gate. Does it work? Does it function? Whose responsibility is it to maintain it? If those gates are removed, if those gates do not function, that poses a safety hazard. I could go driving onto the tarmac. I don't think that would be a very good idea. It prevents people from illegally accessing the facility, and it is a safety measure. The same as the gate with McKee Park and Meadowview. When the road was closed, a gate was installed. Obviously, to enforce a law that people do not cut through a road that was closed. If that gate is removed, will violators use it? Well, I'd like to think I have a little better faith in people, but you never know. So again, who's responsible for the maintenance of the gate? If it's not functioning properly, why hasn't it been maintained? And the people that have stated prior to the 18th board meeting that the gate doesn't work, why did they take no measures or action to request maintenance, service, previous invoices of service? I know y'all are doing a very good job. I know y'all work hard. I've talked to several with you over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure you're about as ready to get rid of me as I am to be done with this whole issue myself. But removal of this gate, giving the citizens voice, video evidence that it is working as of 12 days ago, would have to lend credence that the gate should remain in place. If y'all decide to take it down, again, going to cost the citizens more money, loss of quality of life, cut through traffic. It has been proven that the issue was so bad the gate was installed, and now since traffic has increased 50% since 1999, according to the Mississippi Department of Transportation on Stark Road, along with the development over 1,000 apartment units, single-family homes, and condominiums, some people would have you believe that those people are utilizing alternative routes. Y'all have provided no evidence or data to support this claim. And I would just like for y'all to get up one morning, drive down Stark Road from Highway 12 to 182. And if you see more than 5 cars at the intersection of Stark Road and 182, I will buy you a beer of your choice. Because I did the same thing myself, and I sat there for 5 minutes because these students are not going to drive 5 miles out of their way to access the university. And I appreciate your time. I hope y'all listen to not only the people, but evidence, facts, doing the right thing, what the people want. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jordan. And that will conclude our public appearances for this evening. Alderman Cisco.
May I ask a question of our Chief Administrative Officer? Would you mind telling us a little bit about the very recent repair history for that gate and our experience with that gate?
We had an invoice last week that the gate was repaired by Coral Company for approximately $382 or so, I believe. I can get that invoice, I have it, but they came, the chief initiated that, and they came out and repaired it, and then apparently tested it again. It did not work, so they came back out. But as of, obviously, the 21st, it was working. This was last week, and as of 1:30 on Friday of last week, it was working again. But it was 2 separate trips that they made to come make that repair.
But we have had it repaired very recently. Thank you.
And that will conclude our public appearances for this evening. We have one public hearing scheduled tonight, and that is a public hearing on $1.5 million cap loan for sewer repairs on Carver Drive and Woodland Heights and throughout the city, in addition to the extension of sewer services to previously annexed territories in the 1998 annexation of the city. I'll briefly introduce that matter. Give me just a second. All right, the cap loan that was approved by the board breaks down as follows. $1,030,467 were approved for the purpose of extending sewer service to a portion of the 1998 annexed territory. $469,533 was approved to make improvements in the Carver Drive and Woodland Heights sewer infrastructure, and any remainder after those projects are complete could be used for other related sewer projects. The cap loan program requires that before the board takes final action on the cap loan, a public hearing be held on the matter. I do have Phyllis Benson here, who is managing the cap loan process from Golden Triangle Planning and Development District. Ms. Benson, is there anything you'd like to add before I call for citizen comments?
No, sir.
At this time, I'll recognize anybody wishing to make comments on the cap loan. You'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. And I do ask that you state your name for the record. Is there anybody wishing to speak on the cap loan? Anyone wishing to speak on the cap loan? Anyone wishing to speak? Okay. All right. Seeing no one wishing to speak, that will conclude the public comment portion of our public hearing. Ms. Benson, the city attorney has suggested that I ask you if this grant application meets the specifications of the cap loan program. Or excuse me, the cap loan application meets the specifications of the program.
Do the projects proposed meet the specs of the cap loan?
Yes, they did.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any comments by the members of the board before concluding the public hearing? Alderman Carver.
Just clarification again, what is the funding mechanism? I mean, how do we pay for this, and as far as related to the budget, if somebody on the budget committee wants to explain?
It will be debt that is serviced out of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund.
And I have asked a question about whether there were sufficient funds to, or if the revenue stream would allow this debt service without a rate increase, and I've been told that this will not require a rate increase for this debt service.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? All right, seeing none, that will conclude the public hearing on the cap loan application, and that will carry us to the consideration of the approval of the finding that the city of Starkville has met all the requirements for the cap loan and the total amount of $1.5 million for sewer improvement. Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the finding that the city of Starkville has met all the requirements for the cap loan and the total amount of $1,500,000 for sewer improvements, with $1,030,467 to finance the construction in Southwest Starkville and $469,533 to fund sewer improvements to the Carver Drive sewer and the Woodland Heights area sewer, with any remaining funds after the completion of the identified projects to be used for other related sewer projects, and has decided to proceed with said loan as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Alderman Carver.
I remember that night there was great discussion on this, and I think both of these were two separate. I mean, they were unrelated at first, and they kind of got tied in together. Do you feel comfortable as a board voting on these? And I guess I'm asking the city attorney, voting on both of these intertwined as one major motion?
It's my understanding that the initial funds are going to be allocated to the work needing to be done off of Highway 25, and any remainder allocated to Woodland Heights and Carver Drive. So the way they're grouped now, I don't see any legal problems, given the fact that the board signed off on both items at the previous meeting that had to do with this agenda item.
And Ms. Benson, who deals regularly with the cap loan program, has opined on the record that she feels it meets the specifications of the cap loan program.
So let's say that the cap loan program, it runs over, we have construction programs run over all the time, and it ends up being 1.2 million. So does that decrease the Carver Drive funding, or vice versa? Say, I'm saying, what has priority in that, in those two motions, original motions?
The board order controls.
Okay.
And this board order specifies the budget for each project.
So still a lot of determination to be made. We don't know exactly any dollar amount of either one.
No,
of those.
each of those projects, as they relate to the cap loan, will be budgeted as the board has ordered them to be budgeted. If there is any overage, this board will have to come back and take a subsequent action with existing funds in the enterprise fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Alderman Dumas's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion concerning the ownership and maintenance of the Douglas MacArthur Gate. I'm going to let the Chief Administrative Officer lead off on this because she has researched the matter as to the history of ownership and maintenance on the gate. Ms. Brewer?
Yes, sir. In doing the research of the minutes, the best that I could determine, and I talked with Chief Lindley, who was party to that at the time it was done, the board authorized the installation of the gate, and the police department oversaw the installation of the gate. And to that extent, they have been looking at maintenance off and on over the years. Obviously, the chief was the one that initiated the most recent repair that was done. And we have maintained that gate since it was installed. There was some landscaping, and my understanding at the time, I talked to Mr. Webb, who was the city engineer at the time, and asked him about the landscaping. That was installed. I believe there was an agreement with the Green Oaks Homeowners Association that they would maintain the landscaping, but that seemed to fall a little bit by the wayside, so we removed the landscaping so that the gate would be available and clear the last couple of years, and it has been functioning in that capacity ever since. As far as I can tell, the city would own the gate because the city installed it.
Discussion.
I've got a question.
Alderman Dumas.
The sole reason I abstained last time is because I had significant legal questions about this, and I've since found out. Chris, could you talk a little bit about the resolution? Because my confusion came with the fact that this was indeed private property, but yet there was a resolution that was passed after the closure of the streets and the revertment of the right-of-way back to the adjacent homeowners that gave the city emergency ingress and egress. And so is it your opinion that at the same time that that resolution was passed, that it also gives us the ability to maintain and even own equipment?
I think the city would probably be within its right in that resolution. Just to track the facts that you just mentioned specifically, Starkville reserved the right for emergency access, ingress and egress from Douglas MacArthur in a resolution on the minutes on March 21 of 2000. Pursuant to that reservation of rights, Starkville then erected the gate, as the Chief Administrative Officer has outlined. Starkville clearly has broad jurisdiction over the streets, including maintenance of streets under Section 2137.3 of the Mississippi Code. Starkville also has broad jurisdiction under its police power to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. Therefore, I think if the issue were ever challenged, I think it would be likely that Starkville has a right to continue to maintain the gate pursuant to its reservation of right to ensure emergency access to that end of Douglas MacArthur.
Was there anything stated in that resolution that mentioned equipment or property or
No.
other type of equipment that would be in addition to just general ingress or egress?
No mention of equipment in that resolution.
Further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, that will take us to annual report by Dr. Milo Burnham of the activities of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals for 2010 and 2011 as required by Chapter 2, Article 6, Section 2-174E of the City's Code of Ordinances. Dr. Burnham?
Thank you. Good evening, and I appreciate your patience in waiting on this. I also waited, Doug. The annual report was included in the packet, I hope, and I hope that you've taken an opportunity to look at the 2 sheets of activities that we dealt with on the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. To give a little background, since it's been 2 years, or at least 2 years since we presented an annual report, I'd like to say that the Board of Aldermen reestablished the Board of Adjustments and Appeals on August 21st of 2007. And the Board of Adjustments and Appeals is a quasi-judicial body separate from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the board consists of 7 members appointed by you, the members of the board, with 1 member representing each ward. We have a number of duties. Among these are to hear requests for adjustments and variances allowed by the zoning ordinance and/or subdivision regulations, to recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission that adjustments be made to the zoning ordinance, to hear appeals on administrative interpretations of all code, zoning regulations, and subdivision regulations, to hear appeals and pass judgments on administrative interpretations on all matters pertaining to the adopted codes of the city. And another duty of the board is to perform this annual evaluation of processes and report any recommendations to the Board of Aldermen in September of this year. Actions of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals do not routinely come before the Board of Aldermen unless one of our decisions is appealed and is brought back to you. Sometimes some of what we do, the action or the request may have their origin in the Board of Aldermen. In each of both years, 2010 and 2011, there were 6 matters that came before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, and the majority of these came through the Building Codes and Planning Department. They were routine in nature, being requests to reduce front, rear, and side setback distances for both new and renovation projects for businesses and residences. There was 1 request for a height variance, and this was in regard to the tower of the La Quinta Inn out on the bypass. In all cases but 1, and this one was a 2010 case dealing with parking space variance for a multifamily development on South Montgomery. In that one case, the request for variances were granted. In this case was appealed. I should say the request for the variance was denied. This case was appealed to you, the Board of Aldermen, and you overrode the decision of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals and went ahead and granted the variance in that particular case. Late in 2011, an appeal or a request for variance came before us dealing with a PUD by the name of the Cottages at Creekside on the north side of East Garrett Road. The Planning and Zoning Commission at their September 13th, 2011 meeting granted approval to a zoning request, recommended the approval to the Board of Aldermen with the condition of providing corrected net density calculations. This body, the Board of Aldermen, at their October 4th, 2011 meeting, approved the PUD with the recommendation that the increase in density be addressed by the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, along with various requests for right-of-way and roadway widths. The main issues before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals was to determine the method for calculating unit density in the PUD, and that is, would gross density calculations be used or would net density calculations be used? Using gross density calculations, which is the number of units divided by the total acreage, the density that we determined was an acceptable value. Using net density calculations, the density far exceeded the allowable density. The Board of Adjustments and Appeals recommended with a split vote that the gross density calculations be utilized and they granted approval of the variance request for density. And I picked out this one because it's important, because this may very well have set a precedent for future PUD unit density calculations. We've done that. The last variance request to come before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals came in late December of 2011. This request was tabled and was tabled at the time. It's been dealt with in 2012. That's the subject of next year's reports. Are there any questions for Ben?
Any questions for Dr. Burnham or Mr. Griffin? Any questions from the members of the board? Questions or comments?
Thank you for your good work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Burnham.
9 o'clock, thank you. No, it's not right.
All right, the next matter on the agenda is the request for approval of the City of Starkville claims docket for the fire department as of September 27th. Discussion. Give Alderman Carver a moment to exit the room.
I want to be exiting too. I've got an agenda.
Okay. Discussion. Motion has been made by Alderman Corey to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for the fire department as of September 27th, 2012. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that exhausts the open session portion of our agenda.
I move that we go into executive, or closed session, terminate the executive session.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to go into a closed session to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Give everybody a moment to clear the room so that the board can go into a closed session to determine whether there is a